As always, we bring to you a wealth of knowledge, dressed up in disguise of amazing folks out in our industry. And this morning, we have the pleasure of hanging out with Miss Crystal Patterson, who is an amazing, amazing leader, one of my friends, and a WLCE alumni. She is from the city of North Miami, Code Compliance Director. So, good morning, Miss Crystal Patterson.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us today. So, we have to kind of show her off a little bit. She is such a multitasker. So this morning she was also attending another event and giving back to her community. So she was with the city's commissioner at Cafe with a Code and Cop, which is a new twist that we were just talking about. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Crystal?
Yeah, sure. Actually, we had an initiative here that the department was doing a couple years back, where we did a quarterly coffee with code, and with the pandemic, things kind of got a little quiet, obviously, and so one of our commissioners, she decided to do an event in her district this morning. It was Cafe with a Cop and Code, and so that and featured one of the new businesses in her district. So we got to go in and check her out. Obviously, we were looking for licensure and making sure that that new business was nice and licensed and doing their part. But no, all jokes aside, it was really nice just to be able to mingle with the residents in that district. They get an opportunity to talk with us, ask questions, share concerns, and do the same with the police department, and it just kind of demonstrates a really a city presence from all angles. So you've got, the code department, the police department, the commissioner's office, and, kind of just a united front that I think, goes over really well with the community. So it was a great time.
Yeah, and I think it's such a great community engagement event to have, because you really open it up to be just vulnerable, just in the midst of coffee and having good conversation and asking all the questions that you may have. I have never heard adding code into it, and although various of us try to do a lot of community outreach, I think this is a nice twist to doing something like that and really joining forces in that, hey, this is what we both do. This is our area of what we follow up on. This is the area of what code follows up on. So I think that this is a great model, even for those code departments that are watching us this morning, is to maybe try to do a cafe with a cop and code. I think that would be an awesome thing to do. Miss Crystal, you've been super busy this year. There's lots going on with you. I know that you had an appointment to the Florida Association of Code Enforcement Board. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, so super busy is an understatement at this point. I mean, besides that appointment, I was also appointed first vice of the local chapter as well. So it's been a huge undertaking. The state association, it's just really been a learning curve, just trying to learn and understand the inner workings of the association. You obviously, you come in and you just got to sit back and observe and, learn. It's been interesting so far. I've only been appointed now for maybe, I guess, 2 months or so. There's been, obviously with the challenges of the pandemic and what have you, we haven't been able to meet in person. So, that obviously makes things a lot more difficult. In a lot of circumstances, it's much easier to learn when you can touch, feel, see, things. So we've been, still behind the cameras and what have you. But it's been great. I mean, I started my committee, which is good. I'm chair of the Judicial and Legislative Committee with the association. It was a big deal to me to bring in a good mix of seasoned folks and new folks. So I think my committee sits about 5 people, 4 or 5 with me, I think. And I think I've got 2 folks that have served previously, and then I've got two new people that have never served, brand new in the industry. Maybe one, their first certification in code enforcement, and they just are eager. They're millennials, they're excited, they want to learn, and I think it's really good. Though I'm the chair of the committee, I'm learning, right? And I think it's good to, diversify, teach someone else what happens behind the scenes so that we develop new leaders, right? And so, it's going good so far, though. And on the local side, it's actually going really good because we had a local chapter, which is actually probably one of the biggest chapters in the state, which was inactive for years. The Miami-Dade and the Monroe County chapter, there was no local chapter. And so we got it up and rolling. And I don't know where we are with membership at this point, but I mean, I think we're knocking on 50, 60 people at this point, and we just started a couple months ago. So it's awesome just being able to, touch the folks down in this area, in this region, and serving on both sides of it is great because I'm looking forward to hearing from folks on all levels in order to be able to be impactful on the state board.
I really like the fact that you saw the need to diversify the membership by means of bringing in seasoned inspectors and fresh inspectors, because I think what that does is not only do you have the wealth of knowledge, right, that already sits on that board, that already sits in our building profession or our code profession, but you also have the bright, new, eager ideas, fresh set of eyes that can be super innovative, right? There's a little saying that we all like to say, let's not reinvent the wheel.
Exactly.
And that's exactly it. We're not reinventing, we're reinnovating or reinvigorating, right?
Mm-hmm.
By bringing in that desire, that flame that's lit, that, wants to go on and move in and say, hey, let's do this, let's try this and that. And so not only does it allow for a fresh perspective, as you mentioned, Crystal, but I think that it also serves as a impacted mentorship. I mean, I can tell you that when I started in an association in 2016, I had no idea that we even had one to begin with. No idea whatsoever. I didn't even know we had a board. I didn't know that I could reach out to these folks. All I knew was that we had training on the building side. So all of my training came from the building side because I didn't know there was a code side. So when I reached out, I met some folks on the board. Pete actually served as one of my initial mentors, if you will, maneuvering through that board process and kind of getting to know what, that my state board was all about. And it taught me a lot of different things, right? It taught me to learn or to see things from a different perspective, but it also showed me the areas of most need. And I think that that's what you were just touching on is, hey, we had a chapter and it was just not alive for a long time. And we want to revive it and bring it in and breathe life into it. And so there's so much great work that gets done by having effective players on a board that really see the need of the membership itself in our profession. What are some rewarding aspects of, I know you're newly on the board, but what are some rewarding aspects so far that you think that you've obtained to this point?
I'm still fairly new, so I'm still assessing those things. But what I would say is just, rewarding in terms of just development, even for me at my level. I think it's a big deal to never plateau, right? To always be open to something new. it's so interesting how we do things down here in the southern region of Florida is so different from what's happening in the central areas of Florida or the northern parts of Florida. Things that I wouldn't know because I don't live in those areas. I'm not privy to it, right? But my colleagues obviously were, some of them are central, northern part, and even on the coast, and the types of things that they see, the types of issues that they address, some of the innovative ways that their departments are run, and some of the things that their local associations do. It's like, whoa, maybe we should take that down south. Like it's exciting to be around people that do what you do, but do it in so many different ways. And like you said, I mean, listen, I'm big on not reinventing the wheel. I'm like, listen, if we can put our heads together and maybe like, nip and tuck a little bit to make it
Yep.
fit. But I mean, there's so much information, and I think rewarding in terms of this has been an experience that has taken me out of doing things on my own into now giving me a whole community of people to be able to, bounce ideas off of, or get recommendations, or, whether it's a suggestion for my department here in the city of North Miami, or, it's something that I want to perhaps see happen, in the industry overall for my role on the board. I have now such a network. And it was like one day I did it and the next day I did, So I went from, really nobody to a whole bunch of somebodies. And so I think it's just awesome. I mean, one of the guys that's on the board, he's actually one of the instructors, one of our instructors for our code certification. And I mean, what better person to have on the board, I mean, listen, so I think, I guess I'll take back that I'm still so new, and maybe I've not had that much time yet to yield the rewards, because there's been a ton, just to have, folks at the tip of your fingers through a text message when you need to bounce something. I mean, here at the office, you want to be able to manage up, right? So if I go talk to my city manager, or there's something that I want to maybe see happen here, code enforcement may not necessarily be her area of, I'm sure is familiar, but not her area of expertise as it is mine. So I can't go bounce ideas, but I need to bring ideas, right? So, when I'm looking to implement, or what have you, I've got this huge network of people, state and nationwide at this point, that I can bounce off of. So it's amazing, with respect to that.
Right, absolutely. And Pete, did you want something, or did you want to add something?
Actually, I do. So I always like to tell the origin stories how we meet these people. So with Crystal, it was we were at an ACE conference, and I believe in Minnesota, correct?
Yeah.
And we had a manager panel, and she just blew everybody out of the water of how poised and how calm she was. We were just like sitting there. We're kind of giving this one newer manager kind of some tough love, and she was like, "Wait, wait, wait, wait." She was just the calmest person. And I remember me, Kelvin Bean, Greg Smith, and Marcus Kellum at that point. We were like, "Who the hell is that?" We were just like it was just the craziest thing. And I remember when she got involved with the WLCE, that was another level of a different type of management style that I've heard of it, but I never experienced the calmness in a person. And I was just so like impressed with like a different, more calmer style, because I'm like, hey, let's get things done, let's go. You know, you can tell me the story later. Let's just get it done. Where this one kind of has a beautiful process, and it's really admirable. And just seeing her growth in the last year from that meeting to how much she's doing and joining boards and just being active and present. It's very inspiring for new supervisors to say, hey, I want to get to that level, and to see, you know, this morning she had a cop with code and cop with copy, and then now later on she's doing this thing with educating the general public out nationwide. So thank you, and kudos to you, Crystal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pete. Actually, back that was actually 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
And actually, at that time, I was the manager here. I had been the manager here for about 3 years, maybe 3 years at that point, and there was no director, there was no supervisor, there was no lead officer. There was just me, the manager, and the officers. I think it's so funny, we talk about it often, but going to that ACE conference back then, I don't think anyone in our organization had ever been to ACE. I don't think anyone in the organization had ever had a membership with ACE. Just thumbing around and just trying to, again, move the department forward and figure out, there's a code department in every municipality, in every city. How do people network? How do they get this thing done, right? And just sifting around, and I found ACE, and I went unsuspectingly, just by myself. I didn't have anyone else to take, and just went and walked into into such a great organization with great people. And I say it often, I think had I not taken that leap and just said, hey, let me kind of get out of the box and try something new, none of the face board, the S-face, the position that I currently have, I don't think any of that would have happened. So I think it was just by way of going there, meeting, such amazing people who really, really inspired me to, take my career to the next level. So I publicly thank you guys
So that,
for the inspiration.
Go out there and just network. You never know who you're going to meet, and
It's true.
It's just crazy, because there's times where we set up ordinances. I'm like, hey, let me call the city of Miami. They have this crazy ordinance I saw on the news. Let's hear about it. Or hey, the state of Florida now has an anonymous complaint policy and law. So let's look at it. And I can call you and say, how is this affecting your jurisdiction, to make a better informed decision for my network? And just to piggyback back on what you said about going to ACE, it's just so important that you develop these relationships, because you know what, you become the next the next inspiration for the next supervisor that wants to be you. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, oh, I need to meet Cece. Oh, I love Cece. And I'm like, Cece, just Cece. Like, learn from her, love her. And same thing with you. Like, you're gonna have people looking up to you and say, man, I want to do what she's doing. And you're giving them the secret sauce here today. So thank you.
No,
I actually would go beyond that, Crystal, because I think most of the time we don't realize how much of an impact we're having on people that are watching you now. And I got to tell you that although I don't work with you, and I would love to work with you because I think it'd be awesome, right? I got to tell you that there's probably folks there that are already looking to you for your guidance. They want to kind of mimic who you are, how you're leading. You're inspiring them to grow. I want to kind of take it back to the women leaders. And I know that you guys had that initial meet with ACE. And I remember talking in a group, with Pete and my other colleagues, and asking, hey, you know what? I'm looking for, this person or that person as far as women leaders. And I remember saying, I want to be able to connect other women with women of impact. And that was what you did. So Crystal, for the audience watching this, she presented a very awesome topic for the Women Leaders in Code Symposium for 2021 called Women in Empower. And she kind of really dove in a very raw kind of way, just putting herself out there and saying, hey, this is me. This is what you're getting. This is how I prepared for today. This is how I felt about today. This is what I now know about today. And she taught us to really look at life as an opportunity and just go with it and take it in and make sure that we build from that. But she also taught us that, with that, you also have to slow down. You also have to take a moment for yourself. and just really kind of center yourself so that you can continue to grow and foster that. And, Crystal and I had an awesome conversation just about a week or so ago, maybe a little bit more. And we were talking about Women Leaders in Code Enforcement 2022. And I said, girl, I need you this year. You're joining, right? She said, well, what are we doing, Miss Isi? What I really love about going back to networking and really building your village is that you really do develop those friendships. I can pick up my phone and call Crystal and say, hey, what are you doing? How are things? How are you? Tell me all about it, right? And she could do the same thing with me and say, hey, what's going on? What's new? So for those of you that are watching, she will be bringing forth another amazing topic entitled Build While You Lead. Build while you lead. And if we can just get a quick synopsis, what does it mean to build while you lead, Miss Crystal?
Gosh, so I mean, it is literally what you see is what you get. And I think I love those. I love working with the WLCE because I think that what's asked of those that have been invited is practical of each individual, right? So I think that WLCE has so intricately gotten to know the presenters and the folks that are a part of the organization. So much so that you're not asking me to present something that I can't present to you, right? But knowing my story and knowing, what it is that has gotten me where I am, it's exactly that, building while I've led. And so from a very practical standpoint, I would say that, we're gonna talk about just, and I think I said this in last year's meeting or was it earlier this year, rather. We talked about, and for me, we all have a perspective, right? But for me, when you make the decision to be a leader, right? I mean, you've got to then build the craft. There may be some interpersonal skills that you have that work to, that skill set. There may be some things you experienced that benefit you in those roles, but you've got to find a way to take this interpersonal skills and some of the experiences and then take a few classes and polish that thing up a little bit and then get into your industry and learn the inner workings of the industry in order to kind of take all of that together and kind of like no similar to building a house, right? Like you can have you can have great insight on decor, right? You might be excellent at, okay, these colors work great together. These fixtures are going to look good together, but we've got to talk about the foundation. We've got to talk about, where in the country are we building this property? What's the proper, foundation to sustain, whether it's, water or snow or hurricanes or whatever it is, right? And we're going to build this thing up and, hopefully sustain it in such a way where it builds value and equity for another leader that's coming. What is it that you're going to be able to contribute, each one to each one kind of thing. Speaking back to the whole, just the whole idea behind bringing in folks on the committees that want to learn. A lot of times we get bypassed. I remember years ago, before I ever even got into code enforcement, I remember thinking, wow, how do you get people just to share with you what they do? How did they get here? On a very practical level, a lot of the times we overlook folks that just want practical information. Sometimes folks just want and need the basics, right? The high level is actually, I think, a lot easier to grasp than the basics. we oftentimes assume people understand the basics and we give them the high level. And what happens is we get leaders that come in and can speak to the ordinance. They can speak to, the way in which the process should flow, but they miss out on the connection. They miss out on key indicators that this person that's working for you or with you is having a challenge. I actually had a staff person in my office today. I always talk about my one-on-ones, and I do them often. And so between my cafe with Cop and Code, I had a one-on-one with one of my staffs, and then one of my code officers, and then I had, the show with you guys today. But I challenged her a couple weeks ago in our last one-on-one to, there's some struggles and some weaknesses in her performance. I said, hey, between now and our next meeting, I want you to take some time and think about what it is that you can do or you feel like would work better for you in order for you to be productive and be not only productive for yourself as a code officer here in the city, but for you to be productive as a team member here. Take some time. I don't care what it is. Think out of the box. Come up with anything. What is it that if the day-to-day inspections you're struggling with meeting your goals and following up with the deadlines, take some time. She took 2 weeks. She came back. She had a laundry list of things. She was like, listen, you said think out of the box. I don't know, if you're going to go for any of this stuff, but I said, let's shoot. And actually, you'd be interested to know that she came with actually a few things that I was considering. And so we talked about it, we ironed it out. And I think that, and this is what we talk about when we talk about building, right? We've got to be able to build folks that even in their struggles, we're not saying we don't want you here. We're not saying maybe you're not good at this. Maybe they offer a skill set that we just need to fine tune and use in a different way. Maybe this thing isn't, their strong suit, but this over here we're lacking in, because all municipal departments, we just kind of wind up in those deficits in a lot of ways. So let me take you out of this role and put you here, and let's see, how this works out, right? I just think that just overall, building while you lead is one of those things that I think when folks leave you and down the line in life, they'll remember you. You're building yourself while you lead. You're building others while you lead. You're building your organization. It's building on so many different levels. And so it's just kind of, I probably should have wrote some of those thoughts down while I was talking, because I hadn't started working on my presentation yet, but hey.
I think given your thought process, it's going to be just fine, because it's all going to come back to you. But, you made some really excellent points. One of the biggest struggles I think that we have as leaders, Crystal, sometimes we find ourselves in those situations where we're thinking to ourselves, oh my gosh, we got to, correct some behaviors, or we have to pump up the team, or how is it that we're going to maneuver through these challenges? And I think what you said is essential, is rather than looking at a person, a subordinate, an employee as, oh, they're broken. They're just broken. They're broke. We can't fix them. Really looking at how you're connecting with them, like you said, hey, let's connect, let's talk. I think what you said to your employee, in that you gave her an option, right? Hey, why don't you provide me with a list of ideas or things that, will help you, so to speak, have a reset, or maybe look to see where they're not being challenged, where they need to be challenged, so that they can ignite that fire again, right? To get them where they need to be. But really look at it overall and all encompassing, and really also have self-reflection, right? Okay, how can I turn this around? Can I help turn this around? What is that going to look like? And going back to your point, yeah, that's definitely leading, because like you said, or building to lead, because like you said, you're learning something for yourself as well. Just as they're learning, right? Just as they're, pulling those thoughts out of their mind, saying, "Oh, okay, this one's what I need, or this is what I need." I'm going to go back to the boss and say, "Hey, can you help me with this?" You're thinking the same thing, like, "Wow, they really provided me a list. This is really awesome." That means those wheels were turning. They were thinking, "Hey, I really want to do this." And in addition to that, the other thing that you mentioned was really being able to look at someone not so much for their lack of experience. And I can't tell you how many times we've interviewed folks, right? All three of us, for positions, and maybe they're entry level. And the first thing that they may say is, "Well, I've never held this job before, but given the opportunity, I'll learn." And I'm a big believer of, that's true, right? We all started there once. We all didn't have that experience at one point in our careers. But all it took was that one person that was willing to invest in what they saw as far as the eagerness and desire to grow and to learn. Because you know what? We can train, right? We can train the skill set. So why not start there and say, "Hey, you know what? You may not have that experience. Let's go ahead and see how you're going to work out." Personality is a big key when it comes to growth. So I think that was really good point that you made. And I live by some of those points that you shared. And like you said, you're going to learn the good and you're going to learn the bad, but regardless, you're still building, right? You're going back to that drawing board and saying, "Wait a minute, I got to make an amendment. I got to make a revision to my plan. This isn't working. Let's figure this out and see how that works." So really great. Awesome info.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that, we just want to be effective in all areas. And, I think that, we have a hard job, back, we touched on the coffee this morning, and, and then we touched on, folks that work in our industry that, that are challenged, and we look for ways, right, to even to build and expand on the industry. Like I if I take my team out to a coffee with the community, I feel like it's an opportunity for the community to understand that we are here to serve them. And even at times when it doesn't feel like we're the good guys, we're always the good guys. And the reason why is because it's the lack of understanding, right? But we're even building the community. We're building relationship. We're giving the team an opportunity to kind of woosah a little bit, to get away from that pen and that ticket book, and say, "Hey, like, I'm human too, if you saw that I got rid of that junk car off your street, come to this coffee. It'd be nice to hear a thank you." You know what I mean? I'm the guy that was responsible in your area for getting rid of it, right? Because you get the community to come out, and a lot of times they don't know who's doing these jobs, but they come out and they're like, "Wow, oh, you're the guy. Oh, you're who we talk to when these things happen. Oh, I remember there used to be this, oh, blah, blah, blah." And, it gives there's an opportunity to be human in our in our day-to-day roles. It's I say it often, it's such a thankless job. It's such a thankless thing that we do here, not just in code enforcement, but in public service, just overall. It's a thankless type of thing. But I think it's great, as a leader, to be able to organize things like that. It doesn't just benefit the public, it benefits your team too. They get an opportunity to kind of come out of the box a little bit and take off the day-to-day uniform. I had, we got breast cancer uniform shirts, and we went in our pink shirts, and and it just gave everyone a chance to kind of just enjoy being a public servant without just the day-to-day challenges that come along with the role. The team says, they came and they're like, can we get new shirts for breast cancer? And I was like, why not? It's the little things. It's not something that I was thinking about, but they actually came in and helped me build as a leader, because now I'll be thinking about that in the coming years, when it comes to other times of the year where, if a uniform change can bring about, a little bit more morale and, a little bit more excitement when it comes to coming to work, then, hey, let's get a new uniform, like it's just the little things, right? And
Right.
yeah, I think overall, the building blocks are just imperative. They're imperative, and
Right.
they're teaching me as I'm trying to teach them, and as we seek to kind of grow together in service for the community.
Yeah, that's so true. And you know what, Crystal? When we have events like that, it's super important, like you said. They'll look at this mugshot all day long, right? As bosses, they'll say, "Yeah, the boss is going to come out," but you know what? The boss is going to bring field staff, line staff, boots on the ground. Here, you go in. I'll sit back and watch. You do your thing. If you need me, I'm here to support you, because it's exactly what you said, is getting them front and center so that they build that community relationship, so that the community knows and recognizes that face and says, oh, hey, I know Pedro. Okay, cool. He's from the city of, North Miami or whatever. And I've met him. He's nice. And he went out. And like you said, Miss Crystal, he took care of that junk car, or he did blah, blah, blah. But now they're putting a face to the name, right? And it's humanizing
Mm-hmm.
what we do. And again, although we can attend these events all day long, it's important to, like you said, get our staff out there so that they could feel the rewards and they could hear, right, the public saying things like you said. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for taking the time to meet us. Thank you for having coffee with us, right? We are human. Hey, we love pizza too. We like ice cream too. Even ice cream socials, those little things, even as far as going into our schools and doing the Read Across America or the presentations. Hey, this is what we do. For those of us doing multifamily enforcement, those are great things to get our field stuff out there and get them involved with the community.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. Absolutely. I'm taking on something we've never done before, is social media. So, this is going to be exciting. I took some time, I kind of looked around, and I think I came across one municipality of the hundreds in the state. I don't know that there could be more than one, but I only found one. And I was like, wow, but I think, I'm a little nervous, but because I realize it's going to be a huge undertaking, but I think that I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be another great way to have staff show up, to have the team be able to bring on, a different spin to what we do. If we can educate, we can push paper and create flyers all day, right? But if now, in this world of technology, how do we meet the needs on a different level? Who do I have here that is, is tech savvy and maybe a good photographer in their leisure time, and that can man this type of thing for us. But I think at the same token, it's again building the community, it's building what we do as an organization. The outreach, I think, is going to be phenomenal. So I'm excited about that. It's a huge undertaking with just everything. I mentioned earlier, I was a couple years ago the manager without a director or a supervisor, and so now I'm the director without a manager or a supervisor, or so it's still just me, it's so necessary. It's necessary to move things forward, and take the things that you're learning and that and and I know I'm sure there's some other states. I think Dallas, and if I'm not mistaken, like some of the Texas cities, are huge when it comes to their marketing and just getting things out, getting the word out to the public. So I'm going to probably, get outside of the state of Florida and take a browse around there and see what they're doing. Because again, we don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Right, exactly. And you know what they say, everything's bigger in Texas. Texas is always doing it big. So I know Jose from Austin. I've seen some of his marketing videos and showcasing some of his officers and on YouTube and saying, "Hey, meet your code officer. Here's who we are. Here's what we do." So yeah, I agree. Being able to check that out and even connect perhaps with Jose and say, "Hey, how's it working out? What are some pros? What are some cons?" And I think it's amazing that you're taking on that additional community engagement component, Crystal, because I think that you'll see that there's more engagement from the community as they start to know that, hey, you have this option to connect, with your team. But in addition to that, you're going to start showcasing what goes unseen, right? We're not just about responding to a complaint. We're actually about improving the community. And this is what we've done. So rather than hearing all the bad, let's start looking at all the good, right? All the good out there.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So, Crystal, I think people forget the power of social media. Like, every time I see you post, I love it. Every time Cecilia posts, I love it. I share it.
Yeah.
I think that community outreach is so important. And Jose does have a great program. He's actually going to be teaching a class called the Evolution of Code Enforcement on how our duties are evolving. And also, in talking to him, he did talking a little bit about the importance of, putting his team out there and what they do. He has a segment called the Code Enforcement Stories, where code enforcement will tell like this, a story of like, it can only, like, you have to be here to believe it, it's just insane the stuff that we see. So I'm looking forward to. Oh, there he is. Look, Mr. Jose is saying. Let's see what he's saying. No, I can't show.
Absolutely. Okay, well, look at that.
He says networking with industry peers is priceless.
Yes. And it is, and he does a great job marketing. I love it. We're looking at the next evolution of code as we speak, and trying to outreach in a different language in Spanish. So that's another undertaking that we're taking, because it needs to be done. And I congratulate you for taking the initiative to market the West Coast. He got the Midwest, I got the West Coast. you need the East Coast.
Yeah. Look, I need some people like you and Jose here on the East Coast here. But again, I'm hoping through the association. Again, we've got so many members, and there's so much talent. I'm sure, in the association. Some of our members, I'm sure, are great. It's just bringing them in and just taking advantage of some of their talents and their skill sets and highlighting them, bringing them into the forefront. I mean, that can totally get us where I'm sure we would love to be overall. I mean, you guys, Pete, do some really awesome stuff when it comes to content. I mean, oftentimes if there's, I think we were talking the other day and I was asking you about illegal dumping, and I was like, hey, do you know anyone that has a really good illegal dumping program? And, and then I just went on YouTube and just looking, and there was so much content, just cities, different cities all around, that just do different things. And maybe they don't have a consistent marketing strategy, but they started and they put some stuff up, but, again, I know it gets challenging. So finding, networking, like Jose said, is imperative, because, people have found successful ways to do some of these things. And it's just, again, taking what someone has already kind of, the framework, and then kind of figuring out, how it works for your organization, or for your region, or whatever issues it is that you address in your particular areas. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I wanted to, I don't know. Hopefully Jose will be at the ACE conference next week.
He will.
Okay, good.
So Crystal, one thing that we always do, and I forgot to do this, we didn't hear a Crystal Patterson origin story. And how did you come into code enforcement?
Oh God. I feel like I've told this story before, but I wanted to be a police officer actually. I had dreams of being a police officer at some point, and then I realized, I don't know that that was really for me. I think leadership was definitely kind of deep down in me, but just didn't know it back then. I had this, I mean, I don't want to, my staff would probably say, oh, she's probably not as soft spoken as, she seemed at that ACE conference. But, there's definitely a couple different channels, here, but but there was an energy that I had that I thought was police work energy, and then I later realized that it was really leadership energy. It was really leadership passion and drive that I had. So I started out. I took a position with the state of Florida. Actually, I did enforcement and regulations and enforcement for the state with the Department of Business and Professional Regulations, and I was an investigator for the Division of Real Estate. And basically, we regulated the real estate industry, licensed real estate agents and appraisers and things like that. I did that for quite some time, and we dealt with complaints that came in from the general public as it pertains to a licensee and things like that, unlicensed activity. And then an opportunity came about for me to transition over to local government. And when I came over as a code officer, which was, pretty parallel in terms of, experience and what have you. Enforcement, regardless of what it is, it was enforcement nonetheless. And so I came in, I did that for about a year, and then I received my first promotion into leadership. And it's just been, I actually was an investigator for about 10, 11 years before I got into leadership. So, it's been great. I mean, I've always had a law enforcement spirit. I actually ended up marrying a police officer. So so that police work, kind of thing panned out kind of at the end. But yeah. So, but law enforcement has always just kind of been my thing. And I was able to kind of take that and couple it together with the leadership component. And, and I always say that you've got to do something that you love. And, I was always really passionate about enforcement. And, and I think I couldn't have gone down a better avenue in terms of leadership because, it's fulfilling in such a way that, I'm really able to, like I always talk about, inspire and, and promote new leaders. I just promoted a new one of my officers into a lead code officer, and I always saw the leadership in him from the day he got here. And he took the promotion actually a couple weeks ago, and it's such a fulfilling and rewarding position to be in. When I came here, we didn't have there was no room for growth. So there was general code officers, and then there was the manager, and that was just that. And so being able to create, another level where, we can take, and obviously a whole lot of cities that are much bigger than mine here, have, various ways that folks can channel, whether it's, code officer to supervisor, what have you. But in a city the size of mine, where it's a little on the smaller side, and those opportunities hadn't previously been there, for me to be able to come in and create those opportunities, it's a phenomenal feeling. It's and like I said, it's extremely rewarding. And to be able to do it in just various capacities, and I don't, honestly, sometimes people say, well, do you plan on retiring from code? And I'm like, I think so. It's just, I love what I do, and so I encourage, folks that, when you get into whatever it is that you're going to do, you have what you do, and then you know that you have so many avenues outside of it that you can kind of expand and grow. And you know, I'm continuing to build as I lead myself, and so
Right.
that's kind of the story.
Well, that is a great story. That's a great story. And we in the code community are so happy and glad and excited that you landed here and that you're here with us and that you're contributing to all of our code officers across the nation, because that's so instrumental. And you're really living out that leadership aspiration that you have. And so, with that, I want to thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning. And for those of you that are watching, if you want a chance to meet Ms. Crystal Patterson in person, again, she'll be at the ACE conference, but she'll also be at Women Leaders in Code Enforcement, March 23rd through the 25th, 2022. It will be a live conference in Sonoma County, California. Details will go up this month on the website, and she will be again presenting on building while you lead. So you'll get the full gamut of the amazing presentation she's going to be putting together for us. Crystal, you're awesome. I'm so lucky and happy that we're friends and that we can connect and that we've connected. And so thank you so much for your time this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. I think this is such a great platform. Kudos to you guys for, you know, for just being so innovative and, you know, finding such creative ways to tap into the industry to get us connected. Frankly, you know, I mean, you guys are on a different part of the country. You know, under any other circumstance, I don't know that, you know, I would, you know, have the opportunity or the privilege of knowing, you know, leaders in other states and, you know, other parts of the country. So, you know, your innovation, your creativity, your willingness to serve the industry is, you know, is hands down, you know, to be applauded. I think that the industry has, in the last year or two, has really been much better because of it. So kudos to you guys. I hate that I don't get to watch the show as often as I'd like, but I might need to do what Jose does and probably put it on my split screen while it's on if I'm in the office and catch it here and there. But you guys are great, Cece and Pete. Thank you. It's a pleasure knowing you guys and being your friends as well. And I look forward to WLCE for sure.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again so much. We appreciate you as always. And we'll let everybody back to your day. Have an amazing day, Crystal, and everybody else. And see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.